This is The Cannamom Show, a podcast chronicling the inspiring stories of real women in the emerging cannabis industry. Your host, Joyce Gerber, mom, lawyer, political activist, has been speaking with women from coast to coast and around the world who are leaders in the revolution of cannabis and caregiving, continuing on her mission to lift up the stories of the women creating the cannabis industry by sharing their canna stories with you. So go make yourself a cup of tea or roll yourself a joint, sit back, and learn something new about this magical plant on The Cannamom Show with Joyce Gerber.
From the Tip O'Neill Studios in North Cambridge, Massachusetts, it's The Cannamom Show. Now here's your host, Joyce Gerber.
And welcome back to The Cannamom Show. I am Joyce Gerber, and we are continuing to crush that stigma around cannabis and caregivers one canna story at a time on season 5. It seems like a miracle, but here we are.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. And we're back to summer. Are you enjoying it?
We're back to summer. Oh, right. Yeah. It was like 40 degrees one day and 80 degrees the next. And then tomorrow it's going to be 40 probably again or something. So, yeah, welcome to New England.
Yeah. I got a new computer, which I don't know if I look better to you. It's supposed to have a better camera, but I spent, honest to God, all day yesterday talking to the guy who says he's in Canada. We're talking about the weather for like hours and hours because I was on tech support for hours and then it took hours to update. And then, of course, there were still problems. And then I had to talk to somebody for more hours. And then I had to get in touch with somebody from MailChimp who we texted. I don't know. It was a full day activity and they expect people to do it on their own. I don't see why that seems possible.
Did you get a Commodore 64 or are you running like Windows 98 or something?
Oh, I don't know. I don't.
Be able to plug it in and go. You're supposed to, but
I don't like technology. It scares me. I'm old.
You have a cutting edge podcast. That's technology.
It's ironic, is what it is. Okay. All right. So I was on a marketing conference for the past couple of days with MailChimp, which is another thing I don't even like yet because I literally created this brand by mistake. But I understand how to staying on brand is so important. And all about AI. Do you use AI?
Yeah, I just used it earlier today. I use it to like get ideas and stuff, but not to do anything like serious or meaningful.
It's always about making stuff faster and quicker. And I don't know, I'm slow.
Like if you wanted to launch this contest for the Cannamom Show, you could tell ChatGPT come up with 20 names for this contest, right? And it might come up with a couple good ones. But it's also completely unreliable. Sometimes it just tells you stuff that's just flat out wrong. So
you gotta be careful. I guess it's like having an assistant or a child. I don't know.
Yes.
All right. So, all right. But there are things you'd like rather give up, I guess. There's boring stuff in life that, I don't know. I kind of feel like the boring stuff, kind of back to parenting. Sometimes the boring stuff is the really important stuff, which you have to power through, even though you don't like it.
You mean non-technology stuff, like
life stuff, like the stuff you don't want to do is probably the stuff you probably should be doing because you're learning something. That's my guess.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
Change is scary. We fear change.
All right. Okay. Speaking of slow things, my Canna romance is now available on my website. I have released chapter 3.
Tremendous. You delivered the first chapter or part of the first chapter?
First chapter.
Right here on the show. And are you going to continue to, is this an audio product or what?
Could be audio, but again, I am so old fashioned. And the idea that I'm doing anything hip is funny. Like I read books, like I don't listen to audio. I don't listen to them really, but I know it's a thing. And I don't know if you're interested, connect with me. I'm very accessible. Let me know.
I like audiobooks when I run through all my regular podcasts and it's like, well, now I'm down to listening to a episode of the Conan O'Brien podcast from like 18 months ago. And maybe a book would be better. So, all
right. Well, if you want to hear my voice in your head reading my story, let me know. It's called She's Taking a Break. And then like a little inside information. I also have a LinkedIn newsletter, which I didn't really know I have, but I do. So I'm using it now as a serial release of the Cannamom romance. So if you get on my LinkedIn, you get it a week early. So that's a little inside information.
nice.
Yeah. So that's,
ChatGPT could write your newsletter for you if you wanted to.
But
You
then
could
what's
use
my
it for
brain
that.
for? What is it left? What's left of me? I don't.
Joyce, embrace the robots. It's just a matter of time before they take over. It's why we say please and thank you to Alexa, because just in case.
I don't even use Alexa. I don't know. I talk to my phone though. All right. So that's my cannabis. All right. One more subject. Okay. Cannabis and crafting. My 22-year-old daughter is now living in my house and she's taken my lighters and this is what she's doing with them. She is crafting them. Can you see that? I know we're on YouTube now, so that's why I'm doing
Yeah,
this.
we're looking at a lighter that looks to be very intricately decorated. Would you call that Art Deco? Or it's almost like a tie-dye thing? Oh, it's
No.
bedazzled.
It's bedazzled.
Bedazzled.
Exactly.
Yes, there's definitely in three different, very different colors. I'm colorblind, so I can't describe it to her.
They're lovely. They're sparkly. So if you want to see it, go on YouTube. But again, this is like a good cannabis and craft project. I keep talking about having house parties.
Mhm.
So if you're going to introduce some of your friends to cannabis, you're going to do a little house party, however you do it. I've been talking about delivery services. This is probably illegal, but I really think that's the way to do it. This
Wait,
could be one of your.
a lighter can't be illegal, right?
No. Talking about like having delivery services do an
Oh,
Avon party, but I just think that's the future. I have no influence, but you could do this as a craft project. I think while you're there, like little things, or even like women's events. I'm going to be doing an event in Belmont, so maybe you do like a craft project, decorate your own lighter, and buy a gram or something.
They should tell that to all the summer camps out there. You remember how everyone hated going to arts and crafts? It's like, oh, third period, we got arts and crafts, or arts and craps, we used to call it. But if you were decorating a lighter, that'd be cool.
With the Canamom, because you could get a prize after.
Yeah.
Oh, Camp Talanoa. All right. So little inside camp information.
Yes.
All right. So we do have two guests today, so I need to move along, but I do have a culture corner today. So yes.
The Culture Corner.
This week. All right. So this week we have a book, Lessons in Chemistry. I'm sure everyone else has heard of it. I've been watching it on the New York Times bestseller list for a long time. So I finally picked it up. It's so good. It's fun. And so last week, Dr. Jamila Owens Todd was our guest, and she actually is a chemist. So it inspired the title of the show. So it's called, Lessons in Chemistry with Dr. Jamila, if you're looking for it. But yeah, it's Lessons in Chemistry.
I'm in the dark and clearly not cultured. So
Oh, you don't?
no,
So,
tell me the thumbnail view of that book. What is it?
set in the 1960s. It's a woman's perspective as a chemist. She's all alone, and just basically the same horror dramas that we're still doing and dealing with in 2023 are
Interesting.
still happening in 1961. Although now we talk about it more, so at least it's in the open and it's obvious. And then we're not just the only woman anymore, although sometimes you still are. And how important it is to have that voice heard. And she was just sort of radical in her way of living, but she was actually a chemist, so she was very logical. And there's a talking dog, not talking dog, but a dog with a really great personality. And they're making it into a movie, I'm pretty sure.
Interesting. There's a show that I just saw on Hulu, came from a book, almost a similar theme. It's called, have you heard of The Other Black Girl?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it juxtaposes like the journey of the black female professional in the like 60s versus today. But then there's this weird, creepy thing under the surface also. I'm not doing it justice, but I would recommend that. I watched it.
It's hard to describe art. Anyways, I read a lot of books that I don't finish or, I get from the library, so I'm not engaged with, but I read this in 24 hours because I was committed to reading it. And I just think it's, again, female perspective. We think we've come a long way in some ways. I guess we have, but there's still so many things that are just the same. And sometimes you just need a new perspective. I think that was kind of part of the, message from the book. And yeah, whatever.
Love it.
Cooking is chemistry. And cannabis is chemistry too. So that leads us to the show.
Excellent segue.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Dave. All right. Today we have two women from INSA Cannabis, a vertically integrated cannabis brand. Whitney Metzler joins us from Georgia, where she is the Chief Compliance Officer at INSA. And you know that this is important because cannabis is all about compliance. In addition to her work in the cannabis industry, her personal accomplishments include being an Olympic swimmer, a staff member in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, and the mother of 5. All right. I don't know how she has time. Lisa Black is the Education and Training Coordinator at INSA Cannabis in Massachusetts. and is responsible for educating all INSA staff and consumers. She's been using her extensive knowledge about the history of cannabis and product usage to influence the narrative and engage her community. She is a mom, a longtime cannabis advocate. I am looking forward to learning more about their personal journeys, their work in the cannabis industry, and what they think is the best part about being a Canamom. Please welcome to the Canamom Show, Whitney Metzler and Lisa Black. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
We need a live audience. All right, so let's just start. Let's see. Just give me a quick your name, your intro, because it is audio too, and your position. Let's just start with Whitney and then Lisa.
So I'm Whitney Metzler. I've been with INSA for 2 years. I'm the Chief Compliance Officer, so I deal with all of our states, and we're up to 6 now. And my background actually, and intro to cannabis was actually, I wrote Pennsylvania's medical marijuana law. So after my decade, actually 12 years at the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, that was one of the signature bills that I was able to work on.
So important. Okay, and Lisa.
I'm Lisa Black. I am the Education and Training Coordinator for INSA. I've been with the company for almost 6 years now. I was with the company when we started up, and so I've got to see us grow from a single location to the 6-state juggernaut that we are now. I've been using cannabis now for about 18 years medicinally, and that's where my cannabis journey really started. I realized it was helping me and wanted to learn why. And I'm all about education and learning, and that's where it led me.
You are. All right. So, okay, Lisa, so you're in Massachusetts. So I'm just going to start with you because I'm in Massachusetts. So I get it. Education is so important. And what I'm finding over and over again, the women I'm talking to, people need to feel empowered about this plant. It's like we all have to figure it out for ourselves in some way, but we need to have good data. So that's really what we're providing when we're providing good education. So what are you doing? Can you give some specifics of what you're doing to keep both consumers informed and, of course, staff? That's a whole nother level of education and making sure they know what's coming in, and the products are changing all the time, in compliance, how you talk about it, what you say. So I know it's a big topic, but just kind of, give me a couple of minutes on what you're doing with kind of consumers and both the people who are helping sell the products and make the products.
Absolutely. One of the things that I like to say often is that education is the cure to stigma. And so if we're providing that educational piece, providing the history of the plant, all of its uses on a scientific level, very fact-based, then that stigma starts to go away. And that's one thing that we're really invested in, obviously, at INSA. We want people to feel very comfortable using cannabis in all aspects of their life. One of our mottos is cannabis for real life. And we realize that there are moms out there who need cannabis to function. And so, at that education piece is a huge part of it. We have people coming in who have been utilizing cannabis for a long time, who maybe want to see what other options there are. And on the flip side, we have people who have never dreamed of using cannabis, but have recently heard from a loved one or a friend all the benefits it's brought them. And so now they want to maybe see what it can offer them. And so that education piece, like you said, it's definitely twofold. We have to offer that education to our patients and our customers in a way that's going to feel no pressure, very, like I said, science-based. And so it's not like, oh yeah, my buddy one time tried this and it was great. That information.
Yeah, no, that's not. And again, it's tricky. Can you just explain? Because everyone might not understand. It is very tricky to talk about cannabis, especially in the sense of health and wellness and healing, because of what we can and cannot say. So I've seen this more in dispensaries. They have products lined out by benefits, health, if you're having trouble sleeping, these 12 products work really well. And if you're having pain, these 12, but it's hard to actually market or talk about it specifically sometimes. So can you talk about maybe what you're doing specifically that way to talk to consumers about what they're getting and how they know what their products are?
Yeah, it can be tricky to speak to it, especially because, as I'm sure everyone has their own unique endocannabinoid system. And so, what works for the goose might not work for the gander when it comes to cannabis. And so we have to educate people on the why. That's a big thing. And so we do a lot of that with our staff. I personally put out micro training every single Tuesday because, as you said, there's new stuff all the time.
So what's a micro training like? Like a product comes in, or a terpenoid, or something, whatever it is, a small topic. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So a lot of science of education has learned that people retain knowledge better when they get them in little snippets versus
Mhm.
like long pieces, like every few weeks or so. And so we totally embrace that. And we do really short courses. They shouldn't take longer than like 10 minutes to take on various topics. It might be a new product we're releasing. It might be a subject focus. Like recently we focused on terpenes. You might want to refresh people on the different benefits of the different cannabinoids.
Oh, that's great.
There's a million subjects that we
No, there is
can
a million.
draw
Even
from.
like when I started the podcast, people were like, "Are there enough topics?" I'm like, "Are you kidding? This touches everything, everything." All right. So you're really working with like your clients on a specific, but really you're kind of helping your clients by making sure your staff is informed on kind of like the micro level of what's going on. That's great. That's really good to hear. All right. We can come back to that, but let's talk Whitney. All right, compliance. This is all compliance. Everyone thinks they're gonna have so much fun in cannabis. It's cannabis, but it is really compliance, right? And so you just said, I was gonna ask, are you working across state lines?
So I did actually I work in all of our states. So we do I do have staff that's regionally based. So I have like a Northeast staff person, a Mid-Atlantic staff person, and a Southeast staff person to cover our states. But I get to travel a lot between them. So I live in Georgia most of the year, but funny enough, I am actually in Pennsylvania right now,
Okay.
like as of today. So I split my time between the two states. My kids are nationally ranked golfers. That's the reason I live in Georgia half the year. And so that's why we go back and forth. But I happen to be here right now, working with kind of my old coworkers in the legislature, working on some adult use language and expanding the medical uses here in Pennsylvania. So
I mean, again, I talk about, pot politics and religion and it's all a combined thing. And the idea the policymakers need to hear from people who understand what this is. So you have an interesting perspective that you actually come from policy,
right.
but then went into business. So I don't know, you want to, I don't even know where to begin this. But can you just, I don't know, maybe people don't understand. Can you just explain a little bit, like tell me the states that you're in, and can you
Okay.
talk about some of the differences that you have to be really careful about between the states? And
Absolutely. So we are in Massachusetts, Connecticut. Both of those are adult use. So then we're in Pennsylvania, Ohio. Both of those are medical only. In Ohio, we have just a dispensary. In Pennsylvania, we have just a grower processor. So totally different sides of the business that we handle. In Florida, where we have 10 dispensaries, you have to be vertically integrated. So we own a grow and we have 10 dispensaries as well. So the whole gamut there. And then Alabama, we just got a license there. And so we'll need to be operational within 90 days there. So right now we're opening Connecticut.
What's the status of Alabama?
We were awarded a license.
So are they adult? What is it? Medical. Okay.
So,
wow.
Yeah. And so 4 of our states are medical. 2 of our states are adult use. Obviously I came from a medical background. I worked in the healthcare space I was a medical malpractice attorney before joining the House. So I had a healthcare background there as well.
Actually, why don't we just kind of jump into that? So compliance is everything. We could talk more about it, but I was just going to ask, what's your personal journey? Just kind of what you're kind of heading towards. Like, how did a nice girl like you end up here? How did you find yourself here? And
well, mine is probably the most atypical transition to cannabis. I worked for the Republican Party, and you know anything about Pennsylvania politics, it is quite conservative. The middle of the state is Pennsylvania, like it's the most conservative you can possibly be. And then you have the corners, Pittsburgh and Philly, which are exceptionally liberal. So we're a purple state all the time. And so that was my claim to fame, is that I could work across the aisle with a lot of stuff. So we started with probably the most strident opposition to cannabis was the head of the health committee. His name's Matt Baker. Anyone in Pennsylvania politics knows he is still exceptionally opposed to it. But he allowed me to sit on the task force, and through all of that research that I was able to garner, actually most of it coming from Israel, we were able to craft an exceptionally good bill that was a model for many other states on like the research component of it, because it's hard to study the plant here in the United States. So that was always the big issue we had. And so we have some really great structures in Pennsylvania that we use. So we have the Pennsylvania Healthcare Cost Containment Council. So you report all your findings for hospitals and ambulatory surgical centers. So we could utilize.
All right. So can I kind of backtrack on this?
Oh, yeah.
So
I could go on for days on this.
No, but it gets technical. But what I can hear from you is that, so I think that this retail part was sort of a mistake. I think it really should have come in as medical across the country first, because when you have medical professionals engaged and you have research engaged, you have that kind of umbrella first, which it's really what's happening in Israel.
Right.
And it's happening in Germany. I think they're trying, but you're kind of doing, again, this is state by state. Every state is doing this differently. So you're really coming in, you're talking about it like as a true medical program with research and ability to study it and to engage the doctors and nurses and people who are caring for each other. Is that really, is that what you are?
That is what we did
Yeah.
in Pennsylvania. So we actually have 2 chapters in our Medical Cannabis Act, Chapter 19 and Chapter 20. So they actually really forced the medical networks. We have over 10 medical schools, universities in the Commonwealth. And so we had utilized those to study other diseases that weren't listed in the qualifying conditions. So Israel has some great research on like diabetes, but you don't have any in the United States on that. So we were really trying to get the medical networks in Pennsylvania to try it with the benefit that it would be a substantially reduced cost for patients to get their cannabis through these integrated, they're called ACRCs, clinically registered academic medical centers.
Because I so CNN just did this, kind of off topic, but CNN just did a big story about Israel and how they're using it normally. It's normalized in like nursing homes and elder facilities. So this is so important, talking about the medical part. All right. That's amazing stuff, but we got more to talk about. All right. Your personal journey, your why. So, I mean, you're very active politically. What was your personal use or understanding of cannabis before you got involved with this politically?
So I, as you, when in my introduction, I was a 1996 Olympic swimmer. If everyone remembers, that year was the year Gary Hall was in the Olympics, and he was very open about his cannabis use. I used to babysit Michael Phelps. He was relatively, he wasn't necessarily open about his cannabis use, but everyone found out about it. So I knew that a lot of athletes were using the product. And so honestly, I've had shoulder reconstructive surgery, knee reconstructive surgery. I love when people say, oh, swimming's a low impact sport. Not at the level you do that to make the Olympic team. But so I found, like, especially topical uses, it really did benefit me. So I know it does not help, like some of the terpenes and the cannabinoids do cause.
So what year, how old were you? How old were you when you started like integrating it into your lifestyle then?
So it was much later in life. Simply, I'm a rule follower. So after Pennsylvania passed the medical cannabis law, then I was able to utilize it. So
okay.
Now I can get it. Like, I had to go to a golf tournament in Massachusetts, and I got there, and I'm old now. I'm 45, and that's not old, but it's old enough that my joints hurt on a regular basis. And I went to the golf tournament, and I got out of the car, and I'm like, I can't even stand up straight. Like, my back was bothering me. So I immediately went to our dispensary and got like the pain cream to make it through the golf tournament, the 3-day golf tournament with my 17-year-old son. But so, like, they know about it. They always know that if, they're having like back spasms, especially with golf. That's
so important. That's so cool. Did you ever think you'd be that kind of cool mom? I mean, I use this again. I use it. I'm 58. I use it for all sorts of things. I was cleaning. I mean, I'm too old to even clean. I was on my hands and knees, like really cleaning. And then that night, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm old. I can't do that. But I used a couple of creams. I put like a patch. I've been doing the CBD patch, and I felt fine. And I got up the next day and I functioned. So, and I'm older. I'm still working for me. All right. So compliance, your personal story, Lisa. I guess your personal story. What's your why? Why you've been in this medical? I know for quite a while, but is there something that came before that?
Yeah, well, like Whitney, I am a rule follower to an extent, though. And so in college, I was offered cannabis, and when I used it, I realized that it was just like a completely different experience from the first time I tried alcohol. First time I tried alcohol was really negative. First time I tried.
What year was this? Like, I can't. How about, yeah.
Let's see, 2006.
Okay, so way before legalization. Yeah.
Yes. Right before. And so when I utilized the cannabis, I realized that this was actually really helping me. It was a really positive experience. I was like, well, this is illegal. I need to find out why. And so I did a deep dive into the reasons behind, cannabis being illegal. And I didn't find anything good. I didn't find any good reasons.
Because there aren't really any good reasons for it. Yeah. Keep looking, people. Keep looking. Yeah.
And so when I found that out, and I found out more about the plant and how it functions on the body, that's where I sort of really started to fall in love with it, because I have really bad chronic anxiety, which leads to chronic nausea. And so for years, I would wake up in the morning and just instantly start throwing up because that's just how my body processed the anxiety. And then when I found cannabis, I was like, wow, this is not only helping me a lot with the nausea, but it's helping me with the anxiety as well. And then again, just have to do a deeper dive into why.
Isn't it like, okay, I always say this, like almost every show, I'm like, so my generation, we were offered alcohol or pharmaceuticals or literally just suffer through it. Like those are our choices. And that the women I meet over and over again have come to this plant medicine as a last resort because they've tried everything else and they're desperate. And then they literally become evangelized because they can't believe this works so well. And then despite how hard this industry is, which we haven't really talked that much about, but it is very hard, they stay in it because they can see the benefit. Like I can see it in your stories as well. You're becoming the people you needed. Like when you were trying to figure this out, was there anyone for you to talk to or look up? Like what were you reading? What were you doing to find
Not
information?
really.
Yeah.
I was just I was actually looking at a lot of the studies that were coming out of Israel.
It's always Israel.
Because that was one of the only places that, was doing a lot of research into it and was actually answering the whys that I had. And since I have like such a passion for that, finding that educational role in INSA just sort of made sense. But what's funny is you mentioned about it being, you saying evangelized, is that for the longest time, I felt like I was in the closet because I had this plant that was helping me function, but it wasn't legal. And I had to hide it from people, hide it from employers, hide it from friends, hide it from family. And so when it did become legal, that's when I felt like I immediately put it all on the table, let my family know, let my husband's family know, this is what I've been utilizing. It helps me. And now I'm actually going to go into a career for it and help other people with it too.
Well, that kind of comes in to family. Okay. So always family. So the stories also include, most of the stories include a lot of shame, and they don't even know where the shame comes from because it's just this thing that exists in culture. And then when they start to try to find out why, they realize the shame shouldn't exist, but it's a hard thing to break. So I see what the kind of moms are doing is they're breaking the stigma because it's just open. So you guys both have families. How many children do you have, Lisa?
Just the one.
Oh, what? Not just
I'm a
one.
new mom.
Oh yeah. How old your child?
She's 17 months.
Oh, really new. Oh,
As
you're
of
really mom.
yesterday. Yes.
All right. I'm gonna go back. Okay, I'm gonna talk to Whitney first because she's been doing this a while. Okay. So you're a mother of 5.
Right.
They're very active in the golf world.
Yep.
Like this is one of these. I don't really know that much about sports. I can tell you about tennis and like rowing. I
Yeah.
don't really know that much about golf, but I'm just not really a sports person except because I learned from my kids. So you're in this world of golfing. I can't imagine cannabis is really that acceptable or normalized. So what has it been like for you to be a golf canna mom, and has there been any pushback?
So before I took the job, obviously I came from, I worked in a very conservative setting. We live in a very rural part of Pennsylvania. So I sat the kids down and said, this is the job I've been offered. This is what I would like to do. And I had to explain a lot of things. So, they had questions. They had a lot of questions and good questions.
And how old were your kids when you got into the industry? What was your age?
So I've been here 2 years. So my oldest would have been 15. So I would have been 15, 2 14-year-olds, and my 11-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Okay, and then can I just back up? So what was your mantra about cannabis prior to this moment?
That you won't, don't touch it, or you're going to be, kicked out of the will.
Okay.
Just generally for all drugs. That was like the general all drugs. Now,
yeah, because I did my awakening was like my kids were 14, 15, 14, like about the same age, and they were just like, "What is she talking about?" So yeah. All right. So what was it like when you talked to them?
So they had a lot of, as I said, they had a lot of really good questions. And, I always shared what I was doing at work with my kids. So when I could make an impact on people's lives, like politics is not exactly like you get the warm and fuzzies at the end of any day. So not related to cannabis, but my very favorite bill ever was a bill that helped women detect breast cancer earlier. Right. And I'm getting constituent letters saying my breast cancer was detected earlier because of this bill,
wow.
was the reason why you can continue to deal with the nonsense that is politics, right? And cannabis, my medical marijuana bill had almost the exact same situation. So I know a lot of the ones that the kids would understand were kids with, that needed Epidiolex, or, had Dravet syndrome, or just a seizure disorder. And so we actually sat and talked about the difference between what a pharmaceutical drug will do, what the seizures do to the brain, and then what cannabis can do to to prevent the seizures and prevent the deterioration of the brain tissue. And so I'm very matter of fact, like with everything with my children. And so we just went through the facts of it. I said, this is what I'm doing and this is why I'm doing it. Do you have any concerns with it? And they don't. So they tell people that I don't know that they necessarily understand it. I don't know that they understood what I used to do either. My now junior, one of my juniors just interviewed me for one of his classes, and he had no idea that like the answers aren't abundantly clear. Like half the time I'm like, I read the regulation, look at either the educational piece that we're going to put out or the advertising we're going to do, and then I have to make a judgment call. He had no idea that it isn't like, oh no, you can do X, but you can't do Y. It's not that clear, right? So it was really interesting to see him even come into that realization that,
well, honestly, it doesn't even, if you're not a compliance person or a lawyer or someone who deals with like regulations on a regular basis, and then on top of it, you have to figure out how to do it across the country in 5 different states with very different regulations. I mean, not even like, it's not cut and paste. We're talking like really different places in the universe. So you're basically dealing with 5 or 6 different countries, honestly. And then you have the whole illegality across the board of the federal government. So it's a lot of it's like a board game that no one wants to play, but you're playing it. So
well, and I love the people that it will, and so people who do know what I do, especially in the golf world, because it is a relatively conservative thing. I mean, parents think it's the coolest thing. All the parents that I've ever interacted with are like, that's so cool. Like, tell me about what can you do? How do you get your card? So, I mean, 9 times out of 10, that's how I'm going. Okay, this is how you get your card. Like, my kids play a lot in Florida, so I walk them through the process of getting their card in Florida or getting their card in Pennsylvania, how you do it, what it can help, things they should look for. And then of course it's the same thing, which is like, well, that causes me to have more anxiety. And I'm like, well, okay, then you probably need a lower THC product, look into so you just walk them through and like,
but people
out,
need,
right?
again, I mean, we're kind of opposite end of the political spectrum, I imagine. I'm in Cambridge, Massachusetts, but I talk about this as being it's the Venn diagram. I mean, I usually talk about in politics, everyone gets sick, everyone gets healed. This is a plant medicine. This is an agricultural application that, I mean, the most conservative farmer down in the South probably wants to be growing hemp because hemp is bigger than cannabis. So this is a national issue and a national problem, which I can't figure out why we don't have a national solution. But look, we're talking about this in a very normalized way on, how do you deal with your family and your children, and how do you heal, how do you make sure that you're healthy and that your children are healthy? That's all we're talking about here. So they understand what it is and they're not scared of it. And you've sort of normalized it. So you're crushing that stigma.
Well, I was a little bit of a crunchy mom. So my children have been treated with essential oils through their lives.
Okay. So they're comfortable with that.
We've done, various things. So that it's not completely foreign that, usually a plan is the best way to do it. And again, after 12 years in politics, I'm more of a like, no, I can do this better than y'all can. So like, just stay out of it. Like you keep screwing it up. Please just stay out of it.
And listen to me, as a mom should say. All right, so Lisa, so you're a mom, a very young child. So have you got any of those? Like they have books now, like a couple, like Miss Kindness has a book out. There's some other like children's books about what grows in grandma's garden. Just talking about it, seeing it. Are you at that level yet? Have you started talking? Have you started showing your daughter pictures yet?
Well, she sits in a lot of my meetings.
Oh, really?
One thing.
Oh, for Zoom. Yeah.
She does. And actually, when I was getting wheeled out of the hospital, the nurse who was helping me found out I was in the cannabis industry. And as she's wheeling me to the car, she's like, so tell me more about CBD. And so literally from the moment she was born, she's been hearing these words and terms and things. And I know that she's still probably too young to understand, but we're still talking about it with her. And so like if my nausea is really bad and I have to step off into the other room to medicate, I'll tell her. I'll be like, okay, mommy's going to get you a snack and then I got to go take my medicine and I'll be right back.
But that's how you do it. That is literally how you shift the story. I mean, it's so personal. This is such a personal way of, I don't know, reimagining what the narrative is. And you're doing it on a very specific level. I'm just taking my time. All right. So she's going to grow up with it normalized and all this. Let's get to, let's talk about INSA. All right. Mission. What's the mission of INSA? What makes it kind of unique? And I don't know. It's in Massachusetts, obviously, so I can kind of talk about it here. But, what else is it doing nationally? And I don't know. Actually, Lisa, why don't you talk about specific stuff in Massachusetts? Is there anything special about INSA and connections to Massachusetts?
Yeah, well, one thing that's really cool, I'm a Massachusetts homer. Like, I love living in Massachusetts, and anybody who comes to the state, I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
we're the best. I love it here. And so, with that in mind, the fact that we have, all of these dispensaries in Massachusetts and we're incredibly successful in Massachusetts, and that our owners are from Massachusetts is something that we really love to share with people, and they're very involved day to day. It's not just some guys in some corner office in California just sort of reaping all the benefits from our hard work. They're looking at trends, they're reading blogs, they're seeing what customers and patients are looking for. They're coming to our innovation team and being like, what about this? What about that? What are we doing with this? And so that's one thing that I would say is really special is that, we're one of the bigger guys, as people like to say, but we're still very much a small team that really is on the same page as to what we want. And our mission statement is, in business to make your day better. So,
So
yes, we're a business.
did INSA start as medical? Are you vertical as well? Do you grow your
We
own?
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Okay.
started as medical only. We started off in East Hampton as a medical only location, and then we expanded into Springfield really soon after that as a medical only location. And then once the recreational laws went through and Massachusetts was allowing those recreational stores to open up, we were in the second round of dispensaries that got to open up in East Hampton. So we've been blessed to, serve Massachusetts for a long time. And it's great because we've sort of had this like training grounds here in Massachusetts, and we've gotten a lot of stuff figured out that we can now utilize in these other states that we're going into. It's definitely
And
not cut and paste, like you said. There's so many differences between state to state, but we have a guideline of like what we want to do with our business, and that's really important.
so I've seen INSA products in other dispensaries. So like, if there's anything that you want to talk about that's specialized that you really think people should like look out for, because it's not just in the stores or in you have products in other stores, other dispensaries. So
Yeah, I would say one thing that we're really well known for is our high-end chocolates.
mm,
And we have those in a lot of different dispensaries in Massachusetts. And so if you're a chocoholic like me and you really like the high-end stuff, think Ghirardelli, not Hershey's, then you definitely would want to check out those. Also, one thing that's special about INSA that you can get in the dispensaries across the state is that we create our own cultivars, our own strains from scratch. And so our head grower, Franco Fieri, will look at what we have, look at the terpene content and the THC content of what we have, and then try to fill any gaps that might be there. We might want a cultivar that's higher in humulene, and we don't have that right now. So he's going to grab a Girl Scout cookies cut and another cut that's high in humulene and, create it from
so
scratch.
so are your products marked with terpene profiles?
Absolutely. And you
I
can
think
find out
are.
even more about it on our website when you stop to our menu. All of that terpene information is on there with information on what the terpenes are too. So if you're not familiar with what they are, you can hover over it. It shows you how much limonene content is in there and then a little blurb about what limonene is.
That is really good. So I just did a little bounty hunting, not to promote another brand, but they did this game where basically you got the same uh same strain, different seeds. So you kind of had to smell it and look at it and think about it in a really conscientious way, which I was I don't know, I was intimidated by it. I'm like, I don't know if I smell that good. I don't know. It all kind of smells similar, but I realized that the intentionality of it really made a difference. So again, if you want to find product, we talk about this is very local, very artisanal if you want to, and that the terpenes are so important, and a lot of the products aren't marked with them. You don't know, and it's hard to figure out what you like sometimes because you can't really just look up on weed maps. It's really specific to the strain you're getting and the product that you're getting, right?
And from batch to batch,
Yeah, and batch to batch.
it could be, one batch was lower terpene and then we coaxed it just a little bit and then boom, we got that 3% terpene, which is so hard to get out of flower. But I can tell you just from working with the guys, that's what they get really excited about. We're all about the terps here.
That's a good sign. All right. Anything else? I don't know, Whitney, anything you want to talk about, like INSA where
Well,
you are? I mean, it's obviously very
so I
complicated.
can add to something she said.
Yeah.
So we don't just create our own strains in Massachusetts. We actually do it in Pennsylvania. One of our newest strains was by our Pennsylvania grower, and it's named actually after his mom, after her recovery from breast cancer. So it's October. So I want to throw that out there. So that's the Mary strain. It should now be in almost all of our states, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania and in Florida right now.
So can you just say what makes it special? The content, what is it?
So I
THC
can't
content?
tell.
Yeah?
As
Oh,
I
you
say,
can't.
maybe Lisa could tell us what the high terpene content is. I just know that it was the terpene content that his mom was looking for when she was using it during her treatment. So, and then as if she can add it, I'll let her jump in. But the other thing that we're known for, and it's interesting because I work with so many different regulators, so they get to hear all the complaints too from patients or other customers. So in Pennsylvania, when the Department of Health was just out recently, they complimented us on the fact that we are very strain specific on how we treat all of our plants. So we do not have a set schedule. Some larger entities will have every 56 days or so, they will cut a rim. We do not do that. We do it based on the strain itself. And then we'll also cure for substantially longer than most other people do, which will lock in more of your terpenes and then also reduce any cross-contamination, whether you have mold or yeast or anything that's growing in the tin. So we've heard that in both Pennsylvania and in Florida. In fact, they like our grow so much in Florida that the regulators there are using it to train their other inspectors. That's actually,
I mean, Florida,
yeah,
Florida kind of confuses me. All right, so they have, what do they have? They have medical, but they only
only
have certain,
medical right now.
and how many growers do they have?
So, so I think I want to say it's like 30 plus. They're called MMTCs in Florida. So we have 30 plus MMTCs, but you can only sell your own product. So all of our dispensaries can only sell INSA product, right? So there is no wholesale market. There is a referendum that's trying to go on the ballot, but no, it's in litigation. So the joy of cannabis legislation and litigation. So they're trying to move to an adult use program down in Florida as well. So we're geared for it. Our grow is able to expand to accommodate it if it does go to adult use. But honestly, that's two different states where I have two different sets of regulators that are like, you guys just do it right. So we're very passionate about making sure we have a good product before we even get to the get it to market. And then our bud tenders are so well educated that we're making sure that it's done correctly.
Okay, so people who don't know, like, I don't know what's going on in Florida, but the idea that you can't bring in other products means that other people can't get into the industry, which seems very I don't know, free market. So why what
So Florida, the way they do it, the way the statute is written and the way they do it, it's like I can't even bring in botanical terpenes to add to like vape products, you can't bring in other cannabis terpenes to add to vape products. And talking about strange things, Pennsylvania bans botanical terpenes, Florida bans cannabis derived terpenes, both of which are medical programs and both of which make claims that that's medically advantageous to not do this. I don't.
Yeah, this is confusing.
All right, looking for the why in some of these things. You just have to go, okay, that's what the rules are now, and we'll try to fix it.
But that's the whole thing about policy. You need smart people advising the people making the policy decisions. But this should really have come. I really do. The whole medical part is getting lost in a lot of this. I mean, you can see this too, especially in Massachusetts, and pediatric medical, and everyone thinks they're going to make a lot of money, and no one's really making a lot of money, but it's here. And I'm not sure how we fix what we maybe messed up. I keep thinking new states are going to implement better policy because they see what's gone wrong, but it feels more like they're just implementing the stuff that went wrong. I don't know. I'm not in charge. But yeah,
they try to fix it, and you're like, well, that's not really a fix to the problem you saw. So it's, but you're right. But it's on the other hand, it's hard to go in. So like I can go in and talk to my former members. Obviously, like I'm done the ban for 1 year. You can't talk with them after you leave the legislature. I'm well past that. So I can go in and explain things to them, and it's always surprising how much they don't even know about the Pennsylvania program once they got it up and running. So we do a lot of education of our bud tenders. We do a lot, like I spent a lot of time educating legislators, and honestly it's a language I can speak. So luckily,
and we need you. I just think I could do that work. That's like, I'm like, I don't look like a stoner. I'm a middle-aged woman who plays tennis and wears pearls and talks about cannabis. That's what I do. All right, ladies, a few more minutes. Let's see. Lisa, it's an old school question I'm asking people. Do you have a favorite way to consume? What is your favorite way to consume? And has it changed now that you're a mom? Has anything changed in your favorite ways?
It hasn't changed since I've been a mom, but my favorite way to consume is actually to use concentrates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like to dab. I'm a big dabvocate.
I-
And one reason why it actually works so well being a mom is that with the concentrate, you don't have as much smell, you're vaporizing, so there's no combustion, and that helps the smell as well. And also, with dabbing, it's like one and done.
Mhm.
You do a little dab and you're good to go. It's not like rolling a joint or packing a bowl where it's a little bit more time intensive to get it ready and then consume it. With dabbing, I get my guy heated up, I take my little dabber, pop it in, inhale, and then I'm pretty much good to go. And I do things to make sure there's no cross contamination, I guess, with my child. I have it all in just one separate room that she doesn't go in, and fans and all that good stuff. But yeah, that's my favorite way to consume. Is definitely use concentrates.
That's so funny. So I had Dr. Jamila Owens Toddles last week, and she talked a lot about like live resin versus live rosin and the solvent and the solventless and the molecular structure. So I have a much better understanding of what it really is. Do you have a preference? Solventless, solvent? How do you determine what concentrates you want to use?
Yeah, well, I mean, if I can get solventless, that's a nice treat, but I really don't have any problems having any concentrates that have solvents, especially here in Massachusetts, because our standard for purity for concentrates is the best in the nation. It's incredibly strict. You're likely to get, more propane eating a burger off a grill than you are from consuming any of our products.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and it's factual too. When you measure the ppms of the solvents in there, it's incredibly safe, especially in Massachusetts. And so, yeah, I mean, I really love anything super terpy. So I love a good batter or live batter. And luckily, working at INSA, our focus is terpenes to begin with. So it's really terpy flour that turns into terpy concentrates. And so I found a good spot.
That's awesome. All right, how many minutes? Okay, that's one more minute. So Whitney, what do you have a favorite way to consume?
Usually edibles or just topical cream, just based on what I use. So I use it a lot for sleep. So edibles are my way to go in that sense. And it's kind of similar reason, then there's no smell. Also the only like the vape product that I really, really like, that we make, does leave a lingering smell. So I usually just try to stay with edibles. Yeah.
All right, it's always about the smell. All right, ladies, thank you for sharing everything with me. Whitney, what is the best way for people to connect with you if they want to reach out and find you?
So LinkedIn. So it's easy to find me there. It's wmetzler@myinsa.com. I think I'm still the only Whitney at the company. So yeah.
All right, well, we'll put in the show notes. And Lisa?
Same. I'm also on LinkedIn, and anybody who has any questions on cannabis, lblack@myinsa.com.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, another show. So there we are for my guest, Whitney Metzler and Lisa Black, and of course my Cannabro, David Jazz, and our Canna Mom Show team. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to the Canna Mom Show, where we are on a mission to enhance the impact women have on the emerging cannabis industry by sharing and preserving their stories of love, kindness, wisdom, and hope. Thank you for following and sharing the inspiring stories of the women building this new industry, so together we can crush that stigma around cannabis and caregivers. I'm your host, Joyce Gerber. This is the Canna Mom Show, and we're a production of Pod 617, the Boston Podcast Network.